first. It is Brent, so he does choose to play that end turn 1, but now what if he doesn't draw any more Zorwas or Wimpods?
Always a risk. Only has the one active Zorua. However, Ian having those 3 additional cards, starting your game with that many additional cards gives you already such a strong advantage. Brent's doing everything he can to bring it back down to an even playing field, but now unable to play a turn 1 Bridget, so let's see if he's able to get some cards to really help him get set up.
Yeah, and again, going first in a mirror match like this is very crucial, just because getting to evolve into your Zoroarks first and being able to discard all the cards that you don't really need is just such a huge advantage.
Absolutely. I'm sure both players playing those Zoroark GX, which does more damage for the more bench Pokemon.
Right, looking
you want
at
to try to fill those bench. And
the 6 cards, he did get another Zorua, and he has double Zoroark in hand.
So next turn, he'll be able to set up very nicely. He's able to evolve into 2 Zoroark GXs. And there's a Bridget there as well if he opts to fill up his bench with more Pokemon or use it to use with trade.
All right. And there's an Ultra Ball from Ian. I also think I saw another Zorua in his hand as well.
Searching his deck here. Looks like the Tapu Lele will be coming out into play. Ian looking through the deck, trying to see exactly what options are available to him. Definitely eyeing that Lele.
Probably saying like, oh, I only have 1 Ultra Ball left.
Right.
And yeah, he's actually opting for the Professor Sycamore supporter.
Must not have very many other good cards in hand. Must be able to either use most of the hand or is just having some cards that's, you know, I'm not going to use these cards this matchup. I just want to get back to a large hand size.
Yeah, especially with that second Zorua in his hand, he kind of doesn't need the Bridget this turn.
All right. So, Ian, benching down.
He has 2 Zorua in his hand. And a Rangaroo for that resource management could be a critical card as if this game goes long.
Definitely. Not really any reason there to get the Bridget at all. Had all his basic Pokemon able to be put on the bench and is able to use Wimpod's ability to free retreat out, since it is Ian's first turn of the game, to bring up the Lele, setting up for 2 turns.
All right, and back on Brent. He does draw an N for the turn, and remember, he has both of those Zoroark GX in hand that can evolve. And yeah, opts to do the Bridget now. Turn late, still pretty good.
Definitely. And with, you know, Zoroark GX, does more damage for the number of Pokemon in play. There's absolutely a benefit to filling up your bench as soon as possible, knowing that he has the ability to use those trades. Hopefully that trade will turn into a card that he can use.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because now he's going to have to rely on both of those trades to try to find energy to attack with this turn, just to keep the pressure going.
That's right. Brent will need a double colorless in order to do that riotous beating. Brent looks like taking a minute here just to double check and see what his prize cards are.
Yeah, well, this is his first search of the game.
It's true. Last turn we did just see the N. Didn't have a chance to search. So, and here we go. Getting another Zorua and 2 Wimpods onto the bench. It's looking very good.
All right, and again, these Zoroarks will be critical in trying to find some sort of action this turn.
So we see 2 evolutions placed, no, 3 evolutions placed down this turn. Was the Wimpod?
Yeah, he can't play
he can't play that. Yeah, the Wimpod definitely came down this turn.
All right, so the first trade nets him a Grass Energy, but he's looking for that double colorless. And yeah, he actually just opts not to use the second trade, values the cards in his hand more, because it's a Grass Energy, Gliscod, and a Guzma. That is what you call a combo.
Yeah, all 3 of those cards work very well together. First impression from the Gliscod doing more damage if it is promoted into the active position during the turn. Guzma having the ability to switch out your active with one of your bench. It's a very strong combination, and Brent did not want to risk it. However,
yeah, Ian smelled that out right away. He's like, wait, you didn't use your second trade? Okay, I'm going to end your hand because it has to be good.
That's right. It's kind of nice for Brent as well. Brent does get up to 6 cards instead of just those 3 cards, and will potentially have some cards able to use for trades later, because the only other issue Brent had earlier with that is it would have only been left with whatever that top deck card was to use for trading. So Be interesting to see what draws here. Is it going to be better than that perfect setup for the Golisopod GX, or is it just going to be a bunch of cards that can't really use?
Yeah, he could even draw the cards back again with more.
That could be very much not what Ian wanted to see.
One important card he did draw was a Field Blower in combination with his own Parallel City. These decks really only play Parallel City as their stadium, and you can't play a stadium if it's already in play.
That's right. Parallel City, when you put it into play, has different effects depending on which side, but still, regardless, it is still the same stadium card. So even if you were planning to turn it a different direction, you cannot play a second stadium card with the same while another one is in play.
And Parallel City limiting the bench for both players in respect to where you put it really affects the damage output of Zoroark GX.
That's right. Parallel City does reduce damage done by grass, fire, and water types, grass types being the attackers here. So both sides have a drawback for both players.
Yeah, and looking at Ian's turn 2, it is triple Zoroark GX Golisopod with a grass energy. He opts to retreat to the Golisopod, so we will see a big first impression here for 100 damage because of the red side of Parallel City.
That's right. Does reduce the damage. However, Ian is still able to have 5 bench Pokemon, which is very handy to be able to have all that. First impression did do plenty of damage, however. With 210 hit points, however, Golisopod GX probably will be a 2-hit KO itself. Lots of 2-hit KOs looking on the field right now.
Yeah, exactly. And there we see the Field Blower Parallel City combo that we've been talking about. It allows Brent to play the Tapu Lele down from his hand so he can get a supporter card for the turn. Looks like he's eyeing that Mallow. Such a great supporter card in combination with Zoroark.
Absolutely. Mallow allowing you to search your deck for any 2 cards that you would like, put them to the side, and then shuffle your deck. Put those 2 cards on top of your deck, and when Zoroark having that trade ability, allowing you to discard a card and draw 2 additional cards, you kind of going to understand what cards you're going to pull.
So I think probably the biggest difference in their lists that I see is Ian plays 1 copy of Max Potion.
Max Potion, a very strong cards in these in both of these decks because they're the same deck. Zoroark GX usually only attacks for double colorless. Golisopod GX can use a second attack using both 2 energies, but generally can attack with 1 basic grass energy. So being able to pull that full heal without removing many energy cards, very solid.
Yeah, and so that would have been a card that Brent, if he had it, would have been amazing right here. But he does have the Float Stone to retreat out of the active spot, bring up his own Golisopod to hit for first impression. Again, only doing 100 because he has the red side on Parallel City now.
That's right. First impression normally hits for that 30 plus an additional 90 when it's brought in, becomes the active Pokemon during the turn. Reducing by 20, and with that 210 hit points, suddenly we're looking at a 3-hit knockout unless these players are able to find their way into a choice band.
Oh, and I was talking with Ian early yesterday, and he was like, well, the reason I'm winning with this deck is because I play Palpad. He's a big proponent of Palpad. I don't know if he's used it that much throughout this tournament, but he said it did win him a game where he Palpad a Mallow back into his deck and then searched it out and used it for the game.
That's right. These decks play so many one-ofs. Having that Palpad lets you reuse your supporters later on, especially if you have to discard 1 early on in order to utilize the trade. It gives you that flexibility, which gives you lots of options during the game. And when you're in high-level play like this, you definitely would like to have that.
And here we see the utility of Parallel City coming in handy for Brent right now, because one of the cards that is very important, like we said in this matchup, is Acerola. But not having a Wimpod on the bench to evolve straight into really puts you on the back foot. So I think he's going to be forced to just armor press here.
Yeah, it looks like we are seeing an armor press that does 100 damage because, again, the Parallel City flips to the other direction now. Armor press means the Golisopod will take 20 less damage if it is attacked this turn, making it even more difficult for Brent to get the knockout.
Yeah, it seems the only way for this Golisopod to take the knockout is with a Crossing Cut GX, dealing the perfect 110 damage. But the question is, does Brent have a double colorless energy in his hand?
He does have the Zoroark GXs, so he can do some trades. So
3 of them.
3. So looks like he's going to be able to look through to 6 new cards, netting an additional 3 cards. But we will see, because with your 60-card deck, Those cards could be anywhere in there.
Yeah, we see him debating double Puzzle of Time here. And I can't remember if there's double colorless in the discard or not. I don't think so.
Does not appear to be so. Puzzle of Time, when you play 2, get to any 2 cards out of your discard pile. Looks like we are pulling out the Field Blower and an N.
So Field Blower could be important just because sometimes he might want to do more damage, get rid of his own Parallel City, and also get rid of some of the choice bands that his opponent might have. And he already burned through both of his Field Blower early.
That's right. Being able to remove his own stadium will allow him to do the additional damage if he needs to. Gives him the opportunity to choose when to do it if he's the one that uses the Field Blower. On the downside of Ian being able to bench an additional 2 basics.
Yeah, so this is a big N here. Both players will draw 6 cards, but it'll be on Brent to see if he can actually get the double colorless and take the first 2 prizes of this game.
That's right. Both players still drawing
and
6.
There's the double colorless in his hand.
All right.
And he also has the choice band, but it is not needed.
Cross and Cut GX does do 150 damage. If that's attack, that will be reduced by 40 damage, bring it down to 110, which is still enough for the knockout.
And there it is, Cross and Cut flipping over that GX marker, taking the first knockout on Golisopod GX. And it's looking pretty good for Brent right now.
Yeah, if you look at the play field, Brent having a full 6 Pokemon out there, having some energies, having a Floatstone, having some options, whereas Ian, not too bad with 3 Zoroark GXs out there because those trade abilities can come in real handy. However, not having any other attackers or utility does pose an issue here. And we do see using that one vital bench spot, playing a Tapu Lulu GX to use that ability Wonder Tag to search for a supporter card.
Man, is that his deck? That's a very thin deck.
That is. He must have already used many cards to discard this game. So using trade, it's one of those great abilities that let you search through your deck as much as possible. But if you use it too much, you can actually burn through your resources very quickly and put yourself in danger of losing by not having cards in your deck.
Yeah, exactly. Just one of another things where all these players are so good at is resource management. Essentially, trade allows you to discard cards that you won't need in the match. And because of that, later on in the game, when you get N and stuff like that, your deck's just full of all cards that you can need.
That's right. No matter how big that deck is, as long as it's important to have what you need in it, you should be in a good position.
All right, so it does look like Ian got that Field Blower, getting rid of the Parallel City and the Floatstone.
We immediately see a Wimpod and Grass Energy. Yeah, he was waiting for that.
It looks like he didn't get the double colorless at all. So no attack from Ian here.
Wow.
And a Guzma off the top for Brent.
Brent, very good board position right here. Has that Guzma, can opt to bring up any of those Pokemon on the bench, could take that Wimpod out before it has a chance to evolve as well.
That's looking pretty sweet to me right now.
Right. All right, we see a trade, discarding another one of those Ultra Balls.
Yeah, and the double colorless goes down on a fresh Zoroark GX Guzma. He does bring up the Wimpod, kind of just locking Ian out of Golisopods for essentially this game.
All right, we do see the Wimpod come active. There's a little bit of confusion there. Zoroark comes up from Brent's side, and looks like he will be knocking out that Wimpod for another prize.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is a one prize Pokemon, but you really just put your opponent at a severe disadvantage.
That's right. Applying that pressure puts your opponent where a situation, am I going to be able to get out a Golisopod this game? Or is my opponent just going to keep taking out my Wimpods? Should I just try to go aggressively with my Zoroark GXs? And it does look like I did see a double colorless there drawn.
Yeah, double colorless and an enhanced hammer. 2 very good cards right now for him. Plus the double Puzzle of Time.
That's right. Being able to search for those 2 cards out of the discard. Lots of options because, as we mentioned, the deck was starting to look a little small, so that means the discard pile must have several. Yeah, look how big that is.
Yeah. And remember, decks like Zoroark, Golisopod really don't play any form of recovery other than Puzzle of Time. So with a 2-1 Golisopod in the discard, he might even be thinking like, maybe I need to get a Wimpod.
Several options there. Looks like eyeing that Guzma in the discard pile. Thinking about maybe bringing up one of those heavily damaged.
Well, I think the discard pile was
the opponent's discard pile. All right, has a double colorless. Looks like on top then. Oh, and the Parallel City.
All right, so this is pretty good here, but again, Brent will have an option. He could discard his attackers that are heavily damaged, but he could also discard just the support Pokemon that aren't really that good right now.
Yeah, Tapu Lele and Oranguru not really contributing much to this matchup. He does take out the heavily damaged Golisopod.
So this actually hurts him a lot because that Enhanced Hammer takes away all the energy on Brent's side of the field.
And suddenly, very quickly, just based on 2 cards being played, we are looking at a situation where Brent suddenly only having 2 Zoroarks and an Oranguru, no energy on the field, and the tables have flipped. Ian looking to be in the dominant position right now.
Man, that was an insane turn. Enhanced Hammer coming down from Brent, kind of trying to equalize the field a little bit, but okay, there's the great combo of Field Blower, his own Parallel City, and then we're going to see a resource management here.
Resource management allows you to put 3 cards from your discard pile on the bottom of your deck in any order. So that will be very interesting to see what cards he decides to put back in his deck that he's going to need.
Yeah, and I was talking earlier about these decks not really playing any sort of recovery. I guess Oranguru is a sort of recovery.
Yeah, it's really one of those one-off techs we've been seeing in a lot of decks this weekend. Hasn't come into a whole lot of play on stream, but in certain matchups, that is definitely a card that can really swing your tide of favor in a game.
Yeah, and looking at the 3 cards that Brent drew, it is double colorless, Zoroark GX, and a Tapu Lele. Next turn, he could just play it all down and like, okay, I'll Sycamore right now. And usually with Oranguru's resource management, it has to be like 2 puzzle at a time and then another card.
Right. Now they go on the bottom of the deck, so they won't be able to draw anytime soon unless you do a shuffle mechanic or a search mechanic.
And yeah, it looks like double puzzle and an Enhanced Hammer. Again, Enhanced Hammer, we haven't really seen it come into play as much as it could throughout this whole weekend, but in matchups like this, it's probably one of your best cards.
That's right. Both players really relying on those double colorless energies. They each only play 7 energies total, 4 of which being those double colorless energies, 3 being those basic grass energies. So being able to take out those double colorless energies from your opponent can really put yourself in a situation where you could just lock down the win.
All right, there we see trade of the Pal Pad. Opts not to use it, and see a double colorless in his hand, a puzzle of time. Does he have a second puzzle of time?
I think he is looking for it by using those trade abilities.
Oh, he found it.
Again, very large discard pile. Lots of different options there. So,
and like look, he gets his own Oranguru. This is essentially how the match will have to come down, because you use all your resources to take like 1 or 2 knockouts, and then you're like, oh man, what am I gonna do? Well, okay, well, you put some cards on the bottom of your deck. I'm going to put some cards on the bottom of my deck, and then whoever draws them first wins, right?
That's what it's looking right here. Attaches the grass energy to that best Oranguru, retreating with that float stone attached to the Zoroark GX, and putting his own 2 puzzle times and a double colorless on the bottom of the deck.
Yeah, and with his deck being so thin, you have to think he's going to draw those next turn. And wow, another Field Blower here from Brent. 3rd trade going down. Double colorless energy as well, but he already had 1 in hand. It'll be interesting to see what he actually tries to do here.
Double colorless, you can attach it to one of your Zoroark GXs. That's the obvious play. You could also, if you wanted to, put it onto that Oranguru using that Profound Knowledge attack. 60 damage and a Confusion, which would put Ian in a position where Ian would have to decide, am I going to retreat this turn, or do I want to take a 50% chance to put cards in the bottom of my deck?
And let's see what Brent opts to do. Double colorless on the Zoroark GX. He does have a Guzma, and he can take out the Zora. All right, this is good because he's at 3 prizes, so it put him down to just 1 GX knockout away from taking game 1.
That's right. Brent only needing those 2 prize cards. The choice band, probably one of those cards he's going to want, but he's probably not going to get this game because now the goal is to try to heavily damage a GX and then finish it off.
Floatstone coming down on the Zoroark in the active spot. Looking like he might try to attach to the Tapu Lele here. Still debating about it.
There's a double colorless in the hand. Has an option. Ian is really... Again, many cards have been played so far. Ian has to try to figure out what is left in his deck, what he can afford to attach to, and where his opponent is able to disrupt as well. So definitely this is a very critical mirror match because, like you said, it takes so many resources to get those knockouts. So I am really interested to see what he decides to do.
Yeah, and it looks like about 10 cards left in Brent's deck. And I'm not sure for Ian's, but it can't be much more, if at all.
So we see a couple trades there.
We do see the Max Potion in Ian's hand. It could come in clutch later on in the next few turns. Kind of just like, gotcha.
Max Potion, though, not many energies left in the play. Oh, plays the double puzzle of time, gets the enhanced hammer and a double colorless energy from the discard pile.
So I actually like this line of play a lot because essentially the next few turns are going to come down to like double colorless enhanced hammer, double colorless enhanced hammer, stuff like that. Well, the best thing to do is if Brent goes like an enhanced hammer or Zoroark and then deal damage with Riotous Beating, Max Potion's just free.
Right. So looks like using the Oranguru to put more cards back in the deck. We saw that double puzzle time go back. So looks like this is going to be a very tricky game. And a Field Blower, removing the Floatstone and the Stadium from play once again.
Yeah, and you also have to remember, both players still haven't used their Acerola supporter card.
Acerola would be very important. Again, very difficult to take one-hit knockouts with this matchup. And so being able to pick up a heavily damaged Pokemon, very useful. Now we do see the double colors come onto the active Zoroark GX.
And as of right now, he is taking a knockout on the Rangaroo.
That would only put him at 1 prize card remaining, with all of the bench Pokemon on Ian's side being GX Pokemon. That would put Ian in a situation where he won't be able to risk putting down another base of Pokemon and will be forced to attack with just what Pokemon he has left in play.
Yeah, but it does take away that resource management that Ian's been using to full effectiveness here.
That's right. Resource management. He's used it at least 2 times, getting back those double puzzles to get everything back out of the discard pile he needs. And now looking through that discard pile, what do I have left and what can I do?
It's so many cards.
Both players, look at the size of those discard piles.
And this is what Zoroark does best, is like, well, my deck's all good cards now, so... Like we saw with Brent, that Cynthia that he played, it was what, double enhanced hammer, a puzzle time, and like 2 Acerola. Like, what else do you need? Oh, also a couple choice bands.
All right, so there's some... We see a double colors go into the Tapu Lele. That energy drive attack doing more damage for the number of energies in play. The opponent's Zoroark GX has a double colorless, so we are looking at 80 damage onto that Zoroark GX. We'll need another attacker, though, to finish off that Pokemon.
Yeah, and I actually like this play because you have to think he's going to play an Acerola next turn, pick up this Tapu Lele. And you'd rather not Acerola a Zoroark, just because if you want the same Zoroark in play, you'll have to bench a Zorua, and that's the last prize that Brent needs.
That's right, so...
Ooh,
using that enhanced hammer, take out that double colorless energy. Ian probably really wanted to keep that energy on board.
All right, and it looks like we'll just see another resource management here. This Oranguru is just so good. It kind of didn't look like that when it first came out. It's like, well, the other one's better.
Right.
Why would I even play this one? But these matchups are so just resource intensive and back and forth that when you can use Puzzle of Time essentially infinite amount of times, then of course this card's amazing.
That's right. Players taking turns, discarding each other's special energies, getting them back, using the Oranguru to put those back in there. We are looking at a situation here.
Oh, it looks like Ian ran out of cards.
Ian ran out of resources because he lost his resource management Oranguru and just decided, it's going to be really hard for me to try to pull this back. I'm out of cards, so let's just move on to the next game and see what I can do.
I mean, whenever your manager calls out, it's always a rough day at work. So Oranguru is going to need to show up and make some work happen.
And Oranguru can do that. I mean, such a good utility Pokemon. I mean, like you said, the Sun and Moon one already had a great ability. They always seem to print that Pokemon with good, very situational, but good effects.
Yeah, it's just a great card added into this deck. And with the combination of Puzzle of Time, you really can't go wrong. And then, of course, just drawing through your entire deck, it creates the perfect storm, especially in a mirror match like this.
Right. Puzzle Time, very crucial in a mirror match like this because they both play the Enhanced Hammer, they both play the double colorless energies. None of them can one-shot each other, so they're both taking turns playing defense and offense at the same time. Putting the emphasis, it looks like, on defense this last game because there was a whole lot of defensive plays going on.
Yeah, and I think one thing to note is later on in the game, Parallel City eventually wasn't in play anymore, and that just opened up the floodgates and allowed Brent to actually take the one-hit knockout on Ian's Oranguru.
That's right. Brent found his way into the position to be able to play there. He only had one prize card remaining, so he was looking like he was in a good board position anyways, but definitely had used lots of resources to get there. So I am really interested to see how this next game is going to pan out. We have two very skilled players playing some very skill-intensive decks, so I am really excited to see how this next one goes.
Yeah, honestly, for me, I don't know if I could play a deck like this and face a lot of these Zoroark matchups for this whole tournament. That has to be grueling and just so taxing on your body and mind.
Yeah, there are lots of decks out there that just say, "Hey, I'm going to head out there, and I'm just going to hit really hard and hope something happens with it."
All right, again, one Acerola in Brent's prizes, and then for Ian, I think I saw a 1/1 Gliscopod as well.
They can both work with having these prizes, but obviously they would rather have them available to them.
Well, honestly, after seeing game one, I think the biggest thing is hopefully the Rangaru's not prized. You need that monkey.
All right, so we do see a turn one Bridget here over on the inside, opting for 3 Zoruas right off the bat.
I think I've seen more just naturally drawn Bridgets instead of Tapu Lele Wonder Tag search for Bridgets this whole tournament.
Well, Ian did have to start with that Tapu Lele GX, so it's a good thing that Bridget was in the hand. Otherwise, would have been looking at some difficulty to get that out.
Meanwhile, Brent here having to discard a Puzzle Time and an Acerola with that Professor Sycamore. Not what you want to see, but he does have a lot of basics for not playing Bridget.
That's right. We do see 2 Impods.
3 Puzzle Time in his hand.
So all 4 Puzzle Times have already been found by Brent. He knows they are not prized. 3 in the hand. Could play 2 to get 1 back, so that way you have a double Puzzle Time in your hand again. But we have a potential for a resource management later on.
I kind of want to make a joke about, like, a Puzzle of Time is worth, like, 2 birds is worth more in the hand than 1 in the bush. Like, 3 Puzzle of Time is worth more than 1 in the discard. I don't know. But he really would before this end, he would have had to be careful because you don't want to run through those so fast.
No. Puzzle Time, generally almost always a card you want to use later in the matchup when you have some resources to pick from the discard pile. But the end, forcing Brent to shuffle those cards back into hand. Both players are going to get a brand new hand of 6 cards. We will see. That could change the game entirely.
Yeah, and we actually see Ian bench that Tapu Koko promo where free retreat, essentially probably what he's going to use it for most of the time, just bring up Guzma, stuff like that. But we saw it very early on in the tournament where Flying Flip just allowed the Zoroark deck to set multiple knockouts up for later turns in the game.
That's right. Tapu Koko generally well played on stream so far, so I am interested to see if it will continue its trend and be a successful play in this round.
And thanks to the N and an Evo Soda, Ian gets 2 Zoroark GX in play, and he'll be able to start trading away his cards that he doesn't need, like this Mew EX in his hand.
That early aggression, being able to attack with the Tapu Lele for energy drive for 40 damage, and having 2... Oh, Brent gets out 2 Zoroark GXs himself.
Yeah, Brent's like, anything you can do, I can do better. Here's some Zoroarks and possibly a Glycopod if he draws it. That's one thing that Ian doesn't have in play, is any Wimpods.
Correct. Just did get the Tapu Koko, did not opt to go for a Wimpod. Generally, those 2 cards go well together because, like you had mentioned, you can use the Guzma, Glycopod, and Tapu Koko together for first encounter damage.
And with that Wonder Tag from Brent, looks like he's eyeing down that Guzma supporter card. And I think I saw an Ultra Ball in his hand as well, but I don't know if he has the Grass Energy.
Yeah, without the Grass Energy, he might be going for the Zuru on the bench, just to make sure it cannot evolve, stopping Ian from doing 3 trades. We do see the Guzma is selected. Brent was just double checking to make sure all the cards that he needs are still in the deck.
It's probably like, I hope my other Acerola is in here on my glass. He also could target down that Tapu Koko, but I think you were right, and the Zora might be the better option.
We do see the double colors attached to the Zoroark GX. The Zorua coming to the active spot, bringing up his own Zoroark GX, and using Riotous Beating to knock out the Zorua.
All right. Taking the first knockout here, Brent is trying to set up a position where he can get to 30 match points if he wins this match. And just one step closer to top 8 of Latin America Internationals.
We do see the Mallow play. Mallow, I know, is one of your favorite cards that you see played. Being able to search for any 2 cards you like, put them on top of your deck after you shuffle, and then combine that with Zoroark GX's trade ability, where you discard a card and draw 2. You're going to get 2 cards you need.
Well, like Tord always says, when you can legally break the game rules, search your deck for 2 of any card and then just draw it right away, the card's going to be insane. It'll be interesting to see what he got as well. Looks like Parallel City.
Parallel City bringing Brent down to just 3 benched Pokemon. Promoting back that Tapu Lele GX with 2 Grass Energies attached. We'll be hitting for a little more damage now with Energy Drive.
And the 3rd Grass Energy going on the Wimpod. That's all 3 Grass Energy that Ian plays. And a trade, getting another Puzzle of Time and another Zoroark as well.
Brent having 3 Zoroark GX out in the field right now. It's very good board position for him, being able to trade and get as many cards as he needs.
Yeah, and awkwardly, he has the Enhanced Hammer in hand, but Ian, his draws only allowed him to play these Grass Energy, so Enhanced Hammer's not very good right now.
Enhanced Hammer generally a game winner in this matchup, but right now just Grass Energy's on the field, so cannot play it, but that Acerola... Oh.
Yeah, Acerola coming down, which Brent grabbed off the Puzzle of Time along with another Puzzle of Time for later, and it allows him to heal off that 80 damage and hope this other Zoroark doesn't get knocked out. We do see Ian have that Enhanced Hammer in hand, which, unlike Brent's, is very good right now.
That's right. Brent only having 1 energy on the board is the double colors attached to the active Zoroark GX. Unlikely that Ian will be able to find a way to knock out that Zoroark GX. So we will see if he opts to play it.
Yeah, he would definitely need, I think, what, like...
Glycopod, GX,
no, well, with
Choice Band?
Well, with the Parallel City, it's not doing enough.
He would need a Field Blower as well.
Yeah. All right, first trade for Ian this turn. Let's see what he can cobble together. He does have a Field Blower in hand. It's 1/3 of the way there. Or no, he also needs a Choice Band too.
You need a Choice Band.
Oh, well,
like that Choice Band.
Choice Band right there.
So he just needs a Glycopod GX.
And the double colorless.
And the double colorless. All right. Lots of resources still need to be found.
And you have no manager in play, so it's going to be a little rough.
Ian has a few options here, trying to decide what to discard with that trade ability.
He's definitely going deep in the think tank here.
Keeps eyeing that enhanced hammer, but would rather, I think, take the knockout this turn if possible and save the enhanced hammer for later use. But doesn't look like he's going to be able to find what he needs.
Yeah, there's also the drawback of if you're planning to attack with Tapu Lele this turn, enhanced hammer lowers your damage output dramatically.
And he does play the enhanced hammer, removing the double colorless energy from the active Zoroark GX. So now the energy drive attack from Tapu Lele, given the current energy count, would only be doing 40 damage.
All right, looks like Tapu Lele searches out a Cynthia from the deck and opts to play it, so conserving those little bit of resources. All right.
Cynthia, great card from the last set. A simple shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 6 new cards. Similar to the way N used to be played, only you don't touch your opponent's hand. It only affects yourself.
Yeah, essentially a functional reprint of Professor Oak's New Theory from the Heart Gold Soul Silver expansion, where that card was played in every deck. Like just drawing 6 cards, brand new 6 cards, you can't go wrong with that.
Absolutely, a very great card, and at the time helped sell a lot of the trainer kits.
Yeah, definitely. So we do see a Golisopod go down on the bench, but he opted not to attach that choice band before playing the Cynthia. So we'll just see 100 damage here with first impression. That is not enough to take the knockout, but remember that the second Acerola is in Brent's prizes.
That's right. He would have to try to find the second puzzle time here to get the Acerola back out of his discard pile. We do know that there are no puzzle times prized, and he did get back one when he played his double puzzle time, so he would need to try to find that other puzzle.
Here's the trade, but it is a no-go. He does net a Golisopod GX, which would be amazing if he has the Acerola, but he still needs to try to find it. 2 more cards. Bridget, no, that is not what you want to see. Discard that. 2 more.
There it is.
The last card of the last trade gets the puzzle of time, and now he'll be able to Acerola and just pick up that Zoroark and deny Ian from taking those prizes if he wants to.
That's right. He puts the grass onto the Golisopod GX, having the choice band as well. Clearly, he's looking at a situation here where he is going to bring up that Golisopod GX and attack. But first, there it is. The Acerola and the double colorless energy going to be obtained using the double puzzle of time item cards.
Not even being coy about it. Before even playing the puzzles, like,
look what I'm getting.
These two cards seem pretty good.
And there we go.
Oh, he actually
Acerola
chooses puzzle time. Okay, I like this play because that means later on in the game, you can resource management, just put 3 puzzles on the bottom of your deck. All right, I got 4 again. Come on. That is a really good manager.
All right, and we do see the Acerola being played, removing all the damage. Those dice fly all over the field, and putting down the Zorua again, bringing up the Golisopod GX and attacking with first impression.
And remember, he's doing all this with only 3 bench spaces available to him, and that's the power of Zoroark. But here, Ian, Acerola, myself, Tapu Koko, this is where it comes in handy. That free retreat, being able to just decide what you want to do after you trade a little bit.
That's right. Both players playing very defensively right now, trying to bring out as much aggression as possible, while at the same time keeping themselves in a good board position. And I'm afraid they might start to run out of time if they don't start to pick up the damage.
Yeah, just under 11 minutes to go here. And this game is looking nowhere near complete yet.
Absolutely. Both players, as we saw with that first game, have the ability to do so many different things in this matchup to remove energy, remove damage, keep shifting around your Pokemon. So I'm really not sure we're going to be able to finish this game number 2.
All right. The first enhanced hammer front. Brent comes down, discarding the double colorless, leaving just a grass energy on a damaged Tapu Lele for Ian here. But I don't know. He might have to crossing cut GX just to get this Golisopod out of harm's way for a little bit.
That's right. The Golisopod GX does have 120 damage and is in the active position. Very easy to be knocked out by an opponent's Riotous Beating. And so moving it to the bench, and that's exactly what happens here. We see that's Crossing Cut GX doing a whopping 180 damage because of the Choice Band and switching it to the bench. So we see Brent gather all the dice.
And
they're gone.
See, this is what I was talking about. Max Potion is such a big swing card in this matchup, and the fact that Ian plays one, but Brent doesn't, and Ian will have access to that for the whole game with Puzzle of Time.
That's right. Puzzle Time can let you get back any of those single cards that are very matchup related, and it looks like...
Yeah, the Guzma came down, and your boy got the Glycopod active and knocked it out with his own Glycopod.
And now Ian, taking 2 prize cards, needs to draw 4 more in the next 10 minutes in order to win the game.
Man, look at that hand size. This is what Zoroark does.
Zoroark GX, the trade. You go through so many cards, but every turn you're drawing several additional cards, which puts you in a situation where you have a lot of cards in your hand, which makes it a little more difficult to do the extra math.
And finally, Brent finds a Field Blower here, so he will be able to discard that Parallel City and play his own.
And he does put his Parallel City into play.
Man, Ian saw that coming right away. He's like, yeah, I already know what I'm going to discard.
Well, you have to figure in a matchup like this, it's going to happen pretty frequently. And he does bench your buddy right there and attach the Grass Energy to it.
Yeah, Brent got the monkey off his back and onto the battlefield.
I enjoyed that way too much.
Thank you. I enjoyed it too.
So he will have the option here for, well, it looks like he's going to be using a resource management later. Having a Floatstone on the active Zoroark GX, using his energy attachment for the turn onto the colorless basic on that bench. So it will be coming into the active later to use its attack.
Yeah, so it's a pretty safe play. So Glycopod will need a double colorless and force him to use a GX attack to try to take the knockout with this Parallel City in play, because Zoroark is pretty much capped at its damage output at 80.
That's right. So he does bring it up. And interested to see what 3 cards. I bet he's getting 3 puzzle times.
100%.
But he is double-checking his opponent's discard pile just to make sure he gets the right cards. So he definitely needs to decide what are the cards I need the most right now. I can use those puzzles to get back any cards I need. But at the same time, do I need to just put something in my deck to make sure I can draw it? Because I can't always guarantee I'm going to get 2 puzzles.
That is true. The one drawback of Puzzle Time is you do need to draw them together to make them most effective.
And he does have a bench spot available, so if he did get a supporter, he does have the option of playing a Lele to search for a support, but he does get the 3 puzzle time and puts them on the bottom of the deck.
I think there's only like 8 cards in his deck too, so when over half your deck, or over half your deck is Puzzle Time, it's a pretty good odds.
All right, so we do see the double colors going onto the Zoroark GX, playing the Guzma, bringing up the Wimpod, and
Yeah,
Ian will be taking another very quick knockout.
Well, we were saying Zoroark's damage cap is at 80, but guess who's at 70 HP? That's good old Wimpod.
All right, so Brent is back to his turn. Realize Ian only needs 3 more prize cards to even up the series. So he's looking to see what are his options here to try to take these 5 prize cards.
Yeah, I actually saw in Ian's prizes real quick, the last Puzzle Time is at the very top. So he might not even have access to that for the entire game.
That would force him to play with fewer puzzles. We do see Ian, looks like he's into turbo mode right now. He's really aggressively trying to...
Oh, and look at that.
Play his plans.
You trade and draw 2 puzzle at a time.
Hey, look, that's a thing. All right, we see the double colors, energy attaching to the Zoroark GX. Guzma bringing up the opponent's Glycopod GX, putting it in the active position so it can't become active.
Yeah, one of those ways where it just kind of, you play around your opponent's cards in a sense that, well, the one way you can do the most damage is to bring this guy up during your turn, so might as well just bring it up now.
And we see the Acerola play, removing all the damage and bringing the Glycopod GX and all cards attached to it back to the hand. The Zoroark GX coming active with double colorless energy, a Field Blower, removing both the Floatstone and the Stadium. 2 Wimpods hitting the bench. And a floatstone coming down onto the Lele. Whew, that was a lot of talking.
All right, well, I'll take over. There's a Zoroark right at speeding for 100 damage, and action's back on Brent. He drew another Puzzle of Time, if you could guess.
Huh. Surprising.
But the thing he has to worry about is, since he's been drawing these Puzzle of Times, I think there's only one card left in his deck.
That's right. Those cards did go onto the bottom of the deck using resource management.
And
so
I don't think he shuffled.
I don't think he shuffled his deck at all either. So that means he would have been drawing all the way to the bottom of his deck. So playing a card at this point, something that allows you to shuffle your hand to decks, such as an N or a Cynthia. Using another resource management to put cards on the bottom of that deck.
I think probably Brent, one of his options for winning this game is just to deny Ian from all his like energy and his Pokemon on the bench, like getting just reoccurring parallel cities, kind of force your deck into like a mill deck. Because when your deck's this low to one card essentially, when your resource management put back Puzzle of Times, you're always going to have Puzzle of Time every turn. So as long as that Rangaroo can stay alive, then that's looking pretty.
That's right. He does get the Acerola back out of his discard pile, uses it to remove all that damage that he pushed so hard to apply, puts back down the Zorua to set up another Zoroark GX play, and it looks like he might be onto something here. We might see a little bit of a trade resource management loop.
And I think he probably has to know by now, like, well, either Ian's saving the last two Puzzle of Times for something big, or it might be prized. And there you see Brent trade for just the one card, but it was the fourth Puzzle of Time.
That's right. And he does get the Acerola back out, and he's looking through to see what exactly. Oh, he does not go for that. He goes for an Enhanced Hammer, an Enhanced Hammer, and a Puzzle of Time.
I think this is really what we're just going to see. We're going to see a double Puzzle of Time for a Puzzle of Time and Enhanced Hammer, and then shuffle back the three Puzzle of Times into the deck.
Well, they don't get shuffled. They go on the bottom of that very small deck.
Well, you can you can put them in any order. So maybe you'll put
that's true.
Put like one of the puzzles on top, and then like switch it up every time.
That's right. It's very important to know which order you put those puzzles that are the exact same card on.
So essentially, he'll just Puzzle of Time, get Enhanced Hammer or something like that he needs, and then Puzzle of Time again, get like the Field Blower and Parallel City, and just hope Ian doesn't get 5 Pokemon this turn.
Well, Ian did get rid of that Parallel City, benches down the Tapu Lele GX to get a Guzma. So we might see a Goliathspot GX with a Grass Energy. Guzma bringing up that Zorua and getting the knockout, bringing it down to just 2 prize cards remaining for Ian.
Yeah, and unfortunately, with the Rangaroo active, you couldn't Guzma up the Rangaroo to take the knockout, because I think that's what Ian would have liked.
Yeah, the only Pokemon that could do enough damage to that Pokemon would have been a first impression, and that would not have been an option with it being in the active position.
But this does open up Crossing Cut GX for Ian to take a quick knockout on a Rangaroo if he chooses to.
Yeah, Goliathspot GX only having that basic Grass Energy attached. And as we know, Enhanced Hammer only works on special energy cards. So that Grass Energy is safe right where it is. So Ian does have the option of attaching the Double Colors Energy later to fulfill the requirements for that GX attack to be able to knock it out.
All right, the thing is, there is just over a minute left of play here in round 12. Ian needs 2 prizes to force it into essentially a tie.
That's right. At this point, 1 point's better than 0 points, match points, so you have to go for it, you would think. And even then, when time expires, remember, they do have 3 additional turns, so it's not going to stop right then.
Yeah, and the thing is, against a deck like Zoroark Goliathspod, it's actually pretty hard to get those last 2 prizes, especially when both decks are set up.
And we do see, it looks like we are looking at another resource management right here. He's looking through that massive discard pile filled with so many cards that he saw earlier.
Yeah, so here we're going to see double Puzzle of Time for possibly Parallel City and Acerola. And then Brent can just trade into the other 2 Puzzle of Times, use that to get back Puzzle of Time, and then another card he needs. And then next turn, if the Rangaroo is not knocked out, let's just start this train all over again.
Now, with only having 120 hit points, a crossing cut GX will still do enough damage, even if placed in the order that reduces damage from grass-type attacks.
And now I'm interested to see how many double colorless Ian's gone through.
We do see the double puzzle played to get those cards, and another double puzzle being played to get.
I'm not actually sure on the third new card that he should get. It's definitely interesting. It looks like Guzma here. Again, right now, Brent's up a game. He's sitting pretty. He just needs to make sure Ian doesn't win this game. And timer has run out. We'll get confirmation if time was called. And if it was, Brent's turn 0. And there's just 3 more turns after this before we find out who's going to win, who's going to tie.
That's right. It would only give Ian 2 turns of opportunity to take either 2 prize cards or either knock out 2 non-GX Pokemon or knock out a GX Pokemon. And with having access to that Acerola, using the double puzzle of time would make it very difficult.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Looks like Brent will be able to hold out for the game, so that way the game did not complete and Brent would have won the only game. But we will see. It is possible that there might be another option here that neither of us are seeing.
Trade from Ian here. Gets a Parallel City and an Acerola himself. But again, Brent's not even looking to attack, really. He's just like, if my Oranguru stays on the field, that's probably the best possible thing I could hope for.
Well, even if the Oranguru gets knocked out next turn, there's no way that Ian can do enough damage output to knock out a Zoroark GX. So he does have to aggressively attack one of the Zoroark GX on the bench and somehow stop his opponent from being able to remove the damage with an Acerola.
And this might be one way with N, but Brent's deck was literally 3 cards. Now, granted, he put back an Enhanced Hammer instead of a third puzzle, so there might be one more card that if he draws, it's not worth it. But he just needs an Acerola, and essentially this game's locked up.
Absolutely. Still having those 2 Zoroark GXs on the bench, able to use trade twice to draw back into cards. And he still had 5 prize cards remaining, so he's still drawing an entirely 5 cards, several cards, and he does get, there's 1 puzzle there. So things are looking pretty good for Brent at this time.
Well, honestly, I think he could trade and draw his entire deck now. I forgot that he was at 5 prizes.
That's right. This late in the game, you would start to think maybe that's not the case, but no. Brent, and
here, just a first impression for 30 damage.
Not quite what Ian was expecting to do this turn, I think.
And if the timer was right, Brent is turn 2. This will be his last turn of the game. And there's the Acerola. Could even use it on the Oranguru if he wants to. But with 2 prizes for Ian, it's looking impossible.
All right, does look at those 2 puzzles, looking through that discard pile, and an N also placed back in the deck. And it looks like Ian was like, all right, Brent, you got this. Good job.
Yeah, and he could not get there at the end to try to force a